Well, we have heard a lot about China's 14th five-year plan in the past few months. And obviously, we had a very significant role as an international financial center. But among the list, Hong Kong is also categorized as a center of East meets West international cultural center. And of course, we're also aviation center as well as a trade center. So we have multiple roles. This session, we would like to cover how Hong Kong East meets West to become and other aspects of international positions. And we are very pleased to have a very distinguished groups of panel with us. And I also invite Ambassador Sihasak as well as Ronnie to come on the stage again if in case we would like to have other questions for them. And in view of the very limited time and our overrun of the sessions, I also plan to shorten and finish it with 30 minutes to hopefully finish on time. And thank you very much for your continued patience with us. Well, first of all, Bernard, you were one of the very, very key persons in the past many years in the building up of our huge West Kowloon complex, cultural complex. And shortly before Hong Kong was normalized, you have already invited Kusama's exhibition to Hong Kong. I heard it was not easy to arrange. You also paid a very quick one-day visit to her to try to invite her to come to Hong Kong in person. What a great effort. And would you like to share with us how you look at the importance of Hong Kong as an international cultural center and your experience in developing the West Kowloon complex?
Well,
thank you.
Thank you, Jane. First of all, for those of you who have not followed the history of the West Kowloon Cultural District, this whole thing started 25 years ago. In fact, it was first announced in Mr. C.H. Tung's policy address in 1998. But I'm pretty sure back then, even him himself may not have expected how important this West Kowloon it is today for Hong Kong. Especially at a time for this moment, West Kowloon Cultural District is the Hong Kong comeback story. Seriously. Whether it's M+ or Palace Museum and the other facilities we have, because they are truly world-class. Jane, you asked the questions, Kusama. Yes, I mean, honestly, I'm not exactly a Kusama follower all this year until now because I'm in this position. And I was so amazed because an exhibition like Kusama is many years in making. It didn't just happen like 2 months ago when we announced this thing. Years in making, in preparing. And so when I was first being told about these Kusama exhibitions, my first question was, you know, where are these collection came from? Apparently, it's been like unknown for many different places, right? They're unknown to Hong Kong, right? We create this show, but all the paintings came from everywhere. So why would they trust us? Right? Because you can see M+ like a complete startup. We were only open in 2021 November. So why would they trust us, you know, to give us these collection, right? We have no track record before. We do now. We now have a track record. Amazing. People it's like, wow, Hong Kong can do this. But before that, why would they trust us? Would they trust us because it's not just we have the hardware, but we have the software, we have the people. So the people behind M+, they are experts from everywhere, right? When we open M+, we recruit them to Hong Kong to work for us. And they have the track record. They were able to convince to some foundations and all the different counterparts to lend us these things. Similarly, at Palace Museum, why would Beijing Palace Museum entrust us and gave us 900 pieces of, you know, and of the 900 pieces, 160 are Grade 1 treasure from China, from Beijing, on loan to us. Again, because we, LCSD, the Hong Kong government, have track record in showcasing these national treasures. So I think it's a combination, is even though both Palace Museum and M+ are startups, with no track record, but people entrusted us that Hong Kong can deliver them, and we did. And now even better. Now the story is even easier to convince because now they can see what we can deliver, and I can foresee more and more, international collaboration to come, and Hong Kong will continue to able to use West Kowloon to showcase, we Hong Kong as a hub, an arts and culture hub, not just for Hong Kong, for the region. And we should be using this Hong Kong platform to work with our counterparts in the ASEAN, with Japan, and South Korea, and so on. It should not be just us. It's the entire region. I can entirely agree with Ambassador Sihasa's earlier comments. This is not just one location. It's this collaboration with the region because the time is Asia now. So I think Hong Kong can be entrusted with this role to facilitate this dialogue within the entire region.
Thank you, Bernard. Mr. Bradley, the role of Hong Kong as an international aviation center is really important. And of course, in the past few years, aviation suffered the most amongst, the difficult problems in Hong Kong's economy. And now it's recovering. And would you please share with us your experience of Hong Kong rebounding as an aviation center?
Well, certainly, it's extremely nice to be flying again, I can tell you that. After 2 or 3 years of very difficult times, both for Hong Kong and for aviation. Look, the two biggest challenges I think we're facing, and these are global challenges in aviation, are one to do with manpower and one to do with just airport resources, which can mean capacity shortages or infrastructure issues. And on the manpower side, it's, much has been made of the sort of need to get top talent into Hong Kong, but I can assure you, certainly in terms of airport workers, it's also, there's also shortages in the frontline staff, and so we need to not forget that. Same in lots of other jurisdictions, but it's definitely the case here. So, luckily, we've heard that under one country, two systems, and with the 14th five-year plan, Hong Kong is set up now to act as that super connector between East and West. And as Hong Kong's home carrier, Cathay Pacific's obviously got a very important role in carrying people and goods in and out of China through Hong Kong and to the world. So we're pretty excited about that. You heard Bernie say at the start of the conference that within 5 hours flight we get to half of the world's population. So Hong Kong has a very strong natural position vis-a-vis other parts of other competitors like Singapore as an aviation hub, and we need to continue to leverage that. We've also got this proximity now to the GBA, and instead of just being an 8 million domestic-based market, we're an 86 million domestic-based market, and that represents a real opportunity now for Hong Kong to see its passenger base in a much bigger way. So we're very excited about that. The other interesting thing on the cargo side is, as most of you will know, Hong Kong has been the #1 international cargo hub in the world for quite some time. And it was staggering, really, that we were able to still retain that position in 2022, despite all the things that were going on in terms of supply chains and pandemics and things. So we need to stay there, and we need to build on that #1 position. So that'll be pretty exciting. I think in terms of opportunities to address those challenges, we've got a new third runway coming, which we're all getting ready for, and that will be very good for Hong Kong. And we've got great support from the central government, which is vital. And I think in terms of the labour, the exciting opportunity for me is this great frontline pool of labour just across the border. And we should look very hard and work very hard to tap into that pool of labour. And lastly, for me, the opportunity is to increase our collaboration in an aviation sense, with Shenzhen and Zhuhai. I know there are lots of conversations with Zhuhai and the Hong Kong airport, but we also need to think about Shenzhen, which is only 36 kilometers away. And I think basically my position is we need more than one bridge connecting all these places. And how about a rail link between the two airports, Shenzhen and Hong Kong? 15 minutes between the two, it would benefit both ends. It'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Ando-san, well, supply chain is obviously very important in building up Hong Kong's trading international position. And would you like to share with you your experience in Lisin's fruit development and product development and your operation? Share with us your experiences.
Okay, so I'm an instant noodle man. So I should have some simple, short speech, maybe. Just to talk. Explanation is better. Yeah? Yeah, so we Nishin has some international section here, and we try to export our products to US or Australia, not only China. We had a factory here, and also China, in mainland China too. And then, Hong Kong is a very famous show window for mainland China FMCG market, but recently changing to global market, for the global market, because under the COVID, Southeast Asian flavors become very popular in US supermarket, in Australian supermarket. So they try to expand more space for Asian food. And then Hong Kong is a very good market, test market for Southeast Asian flavor or Korean flavors, because US buyers or Australian buyer contact to Hong Kong, what is the popular flavor in Hong Kong, especially about the Southeast Asian flavors. And then this is one of our additional function in Hong Kong. And the supply chain, supply side, Hong Kong is very close to Guangdong and also Fujian. So our factories, mainly GBA area, we had 9 factories, and then materials, and then logistics, everything very efficiency. And we had R&D here, so we can develop our new product here, and then PL to US, Australia, not only China. So this is a very wonderful place, efficiency place in the market for us. This is our Hong Kong Hub Center's function.
Thank you very much, Ando-san. Chisha, we're very happy to see Hong Kong athletes' continued success since the Tokyo Olympics. And of course, the recent success was also really encouraging for us. And you obviously play a very important role in this. And Rugby 7 is also another encouraging event for us. We had 29,000 people enrolled, and about 20% from overseas. Of course, related to this is a series of entertainment, business, and events that happened during the week. And would you like to share with us, in view of the development of Kai Tak's, sports complex, share with us your view on Hong Kong's and its potential to become an international sports center?
Thank you very much, Jane. Well, first of all, let me begin my comments by saying that we've had some articulation earlier on in the sessions about the increasing polarization of the world and the political conflicts and the exclusionary policies stemming from that. So the first thing that I want to say is, if you want an example of best practice, of fierce competition, and excellent collaboration, look no further than sport. Everything we do, we cannot have a competition without a competition, without engagement with the world, without connection with the world. And the advantage of us in high-performance sport demonstrating the values of a balance between positive competition and collaboration, I feel is a very important lesson for all of us to learn, whether in our business or in our political communities. You mentioned the recent success of the athletes, and of course, the success of the athletes is not that recent. It's actually, they've been developing over the years to the point where they are now a very credible force on the world stage. And this comes back to what, Bernard, you were saying earlier. Do we have the profile to actually make a play to attract big events coming to Hong Kong? And the answer is that we do. Just to give you a little context for the performance of the athletes at the Tokyo Olympics, Then I'll get to your Kai-Tak question, don't worry. In Tokyo, the athletes came back from the Olympics with 6 medals and 5 in the Paralympics. Now, over 200 regions and countries participate in the Olympics and have been doing so for the last 100 years. 75% of them have never won a gold medal. 60% of them have never won any medal whatsoever. So Hong Kong is part of a very small minority of players on the international world stage that can actually get out there and bring home medals and fiercely compete and will absolutely be determined to beat you down, but they will do so in the spirit of friendship, under the Olympic values of collaboration and friendship and mutual respect. So I think every time the athletes go out and represent Hong Kong, they are not just telling Hong Kong positive stories, they are performing Hong Kong positive stories. So I think together with sport and culture, this is the advantage that we have, is because we operate in a performative space where excellence is celebrated. And I think that once we catch on to or latch on to the momentum of what's going on right now in sport, we have a very positive direction that we can move in. Now, the Kai-Tak Sports Park is an amazing hardware infrastructure coming online in around 2024. And that's going to, I really believe, be a catalyst for changing how we can attract more and more major events like Rugby Sevens to come to Hong Kong. And in relation to Rugby Sevens, it was mentioned earlier that 16 men's teams and 12 women's teams came to Hong Kong. These were not any old 16 teams. They were the world's best 16 teams and the world's best women's 12 teams that came to Hong Kong. So this is the kind of attractiveness that we have, the ability to bring other places together and showcase and have a fantastic time while doing it. So I believe with the Kai-Tak Sports Park coming online, we're going to be even better positioned. Now, to take advantage of that momentum, we really all have to get on board, or we're going to fall off the momentum. And I think that includes the government continuing its policy priority to continue to fund sport appropriately, also at the grassroots level, community level, and school level, as well as at the high-performance level. And also the business community get involved. This is a highly successful part of Hong Kong life. And you have a lot of benefits if you can get involved in sponsoring and supporting the events that are coming onto Hong Kong. And this, in turn, establishes Hong Kong as a very positive, dynamic, and unique place. It really helps our image. Now, the thing about image is that it's a two-way mirror. And I think it's equally important that we express the positive stories of Hong Kong, because these then get reflected back to us, and particularly to our young people, our future generations. They get an idea of themselves reflected back that, wow, Hong Kong is an absolutely super fantastic place. And I think that's the importance of the messaging. It's not just externally focused, but it's reflective back and internally focused. And sport has that power to move that development forward. And it's no coincidence that sport policy is a very important policy priority for many governments around the world, because everybody sees the dynamic and positive nature of sport to bring benefits. So this is not a soft power. This is a very, very visible hard power. And I think the image of Hong Kong athletes performing successfully, or even when they perform unsuccessfully and they get defeated, but they get back up again with that determination, undiminished determination to fight again. This, I think, has a real impact on social mindsets. Again, whether it's externally with people admiring the competitive, fierce spirit of Hong Kong, and internally our can-do spirit, our athlete spirit that I hope every young person in Hong Kong and every old person like us sitting here can also learn and demonstrate in our lives, in our business, and in our communities. This is, for me, what's the best part of Hong Kong.
I think you also have a lot of collaboration with China mainland in terms of training and other things.
This is unquestionably, we cannot operate without collaboration. So we collaborate with our counterparts in mainland China. We have a number of institutional relationships in mainland China and have done for many years, and we have benefited significantly from that. Also with our ASEAN partners. and also with our wider Asian partners as well as with our international partners. So we also, similar to what has been mentioned before, see ourselves as part of that dual circulation pathway. We're circulating within the Greater Bay Area, within China, and out into the Asian region, including our ASEAN friends, as well as internationally. So I think sport has a very finessed way of moving through these political barriers and finding ways of moving forward and showing positive collaboration. And don't forget, 2025, the Greater Bay Area, Hong Kong hosted, co-hosted, National Games will be held here in Hong Kong. It's co-hosted by Macau, Guangdong, and also Hong Kong. So this is going to be a spectacular event. Get behind it, make sure you come out to support the athletes, and make sure that you support the events. This will showcase Kai Tak Sports Park in a fantastic way, because with that beautiful 50,000 seat stadium, we're all looking forward to this, and I think the only way is up.
Thank you very much, Trisha. Ambassador Sihasak, you just mentioned it is important to have quality and sustainable growth. And obviously, one of the most valuable parts of our Eastern culture is harmony, is collaboration. We talk about dialogue and sharing. Would you like to share with us your ASEAN perspective in this and the role of Hong Kong in contributing to this kind of development of collaboration with Eastern values?
Well, of course, we have so-called Eastern value. There's so-called Western value. But the tendency is to create a divide between these Eastern value and Western value. I think what is important is to share these values. And I think what Kun Bernard is doing is very important, because these days, more and more, my concern is that, you try to divide the world between, as I mentioned, friends and foes, democracies and authoritarian regime. I don't think we can divide the world that way, because in the end, everything is indivisible. Indivisible in terms of peace, security, prosperity. And culturally, we should see as a means of bringing countries together. I serve my country on UNESCO, on the World Cultural Heritage. And I think this is what we have to do. See culture as the bridge that brings us together, because we all appreciate culture, And so that for me, East and West, yes, but at the same time, it doesn't mean East is the East, West is the West. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ronnie, thank you so much for your address to us. Would you like to further elaborate on this topic of this panel, East Meets West International Cultural Center? You also give a lot of support to cultural developments both in China mainland and Hong Kong. What do you think would be the role of Hong Kong in cultural exchanges, and what is the potential of this?
First of all, Jane, my name is Ronnie Chan. Ronnie is a Western name, and Chan is a Chinese name.
杨名教长.
And according to Zheng Yanxiong earlier, the director, let it be. And a lot of people have thought of changing the names, but my father named me after an Australian Jew by the name of Ronnie. So I'm very happy to live with that name for the last 70-some years, and why not for the next 30? So I think that tells you a lot already in itself, that the Hong Kong people is perhaps, for historic reasons, very much of a cultural blending place. We move easily between the East and the West. And when I say East, I don't just mean Chinese. I mean a little bit of Japan, a little bit of Korea, a little bit of Southeast Asia, because Hong Kong people travel so much, and we love all those countries. But of course, China being a big cultural factor in this part of the world, that to be able to move freely between the Chinese culture and the Western culture is really an advantage. And by the way, I go to India about 6-7 times a year too. And Hong Kong people will do well to get to know Indian culture as well. So I think that Hong Kong is privileged in a sense. We don't start at ground zero. We start at ground whatever. That we are really a step ahead of most people in terms of being culturally savvy and culturally adapt. I mean, then consider another thing. Bernard mentioned about the art institute and the museum that he and the Hong Kong government have built. I think that's fantastic. But also consider what I'm going to say next. Hong Kong has more private gallery probably than any other country, any other city in the rest of Asia. The only exception perhaps is Japan, but Japan is very big and very Japan-centric, whereas Hong Kong is really all over the place. You have the best of the Chinese, you have the best of the West. And I was hosting an event where a top executive of an auction house in Hong Kong spoke. And he said to me, he said, in answer to my question, he said, there's only 3 auction centers in the world, and that is London, New York, and Hong Kong. And the reason is because historically, we have all the expertise right here. Talk about Chinese bronze, Chinese painting, Chinese calligraphy, Western modernist, postmodernist, classical, you name it. We have the expert here from judging the authenticity of it all the way to the technical restoration of it. Hong Kong has probably more of all that that chain than anywhere else in the world. And of course, finally, the very important thing is money. Hong Kong is the money. And the Hong Kong money is very much into the art. So the gentleman told me, the auction house gentleman, he said something like 70, 80%, about 80% of the artwork sold in this part of the world are from the Chinese, from mainland, from Taiwan, and from Hong Kong. The next one is perhaps Vietnam, he told me, which was a little bit to my surprise, but whatever it is. So 70, 80% of all the money that buys art is in Hong Kong or through Hong Kong. And so, all these things together with the sports, the air hub, the art, and so forth, and the business leaders who are making Hong Kong a hub, I just think that Hong Kong, not just on the business side, but in the art side, is unique. Finally, allow me to say one last thing to a little marketing. Right across the street here is a thing called the Asia Society. If you have not been to Asia Society, sorry, you're culturally unadept.
Thank you.
So walk over there. There is an art exhibition right now. Listen, that is 5 Italian artists, sculptors, and sculptresses working on stone, and 5 Hong Kong artists working on wood. And each piece is co-invented, co-created by an Italian and a Hong Kong. So, where do you see such thing, right? So I'm not just marketing Asia Society, of course I am, but just to show you what Hong Kong is like. And these are the institutions that almost don't exist anywhere else in the world, in this part of the world. And so I'm very comfortable that Hong Kong, in the artistic and cultural side of things, will also blossom in the coming years and decades to come.
Thank you, Ronnie. I think Bernard would like to have the last word.
Because after Ronnie spoke, then the rest of us can also now chip in, because Ronnie can always dare to say something that no one else dare to, to comment. Even though we all share the same thing, but Ronnie will be the first. I just want to say one thing, that something he just spoke, and it struck me that I have to respond when you mention your name, Ronnie Chan, right? Because
Bernard Chan.
Yes, not only that, Ronnie. This is exactly my point. And it's not actually a secret. It's an open secret. When I was asked to join the executive council, I have to give up my Thai passport. Right? I gave up my Thai passport in 2004 in order to join the executive council. But that is also the same time, I actually changed my name. My English, well, the English name I use in Hong Kong, I add a Thai name to my name, right? Because I want to preserve that heritage. I'm not shy about that heritage. But of course, I'm born and raised in Hong Kong, but it's nothing wrong for me to add that name. They don't use it for today because it's just too long. But anyway, it's my name. So I think that's what Hong Kong is about, right? It's about inclusiveness, right? We are an international city. We should be inclusive. And I'm so glad today the message of Director Zhang telling that we should continue Hong Kong the way we have always been. So I think, but of course, only after Ronnie spoke, then I dared to comment my name.
Well, thank you. And I'm sure that members sharing on the message we just listened tell us that Hong Kong is also a very livable city. We have very good opportunities for sports, arts and culture, music, and of course, a good business trading opportunities. And with this point, I should stop here because I want to let Bernard to give the final remarks. Could I have the MC, please?